Scientists find hormone-disrupting chemicals in your food, and the FDA approves the shots for 5 to 11-year-olds. We're going to be covering all the most relevant health information that you need to know that has come out in the past week. So stick around to the end, but before we get started, I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski, and welcome to the channel. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit that like button as well, because it helps us get this video out to more people. Also, be sure to share it with your friends that would be interested in these same topics. I also like to conversate with you down in the comments below. So, make sure that you chime in and put your thoughts on these different topics. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you want to get all my natural health videos, go to www.drzee.tv. Let's dive into this. Scientists find hormone-disrupting chemicals in a wide variety of your fast food. According to a new study in the Journal of Exposure Science and Environmental Epidemiology, fast food from popular chains such as McDonald's, Burger King, and more have harmful chemicals linked to a whole host of problems. Now, there is no doubt that we already know, we know, even though maybe sometimes we're not perfect, we know that these foods aren't healthy. I mean, there's no way that you can go pay, $5 and $6 for a full meal and expect it to be cooked by somebody and the ingredients to be healthy. It's just not going to happen. And I haven't been to these fast food chains in so long, so I am very much out of touch. But I mean, if McDonald's still has dollar burgers and stuff like that, I mean, how can you expect that to even be real food? So we know that it's not good quality. We know that it's cooked in inflammatory seed oils that are high in omega-6 and very dangerous for you. We know all this stuff, but the one thing that most people don't know is that there's other harmful toxins that are associated to having a lot of major issues that you don't want to deal with. Now, phthalates are everywhere, and there's evidence for us to be concerned, according to this scientist at George Washington University, Laura Edwards. The research collected 64 fast food items, including hamburgers, fries, chicken nuggets, chicken burritos, and cheese pizza from 6 popular fast food chains. It included McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, Domino's Pizza, Taco Bell, and Chipotle in San Antonio, Texas, as well as 3 pairs of gloves used to handle these foods from the 3 of the restaurants, and it tested them for 8 common phthalates. Now, I want to be clear on this because this is something where a lot of people get a little bit confused. You think when you're using plastics, whether you're drinking out of them, you're eating out of them, we think to ourselves, well, it says BPA free, so it must be safe. The game played by these industries is that if a particular phthalate, if a particular plastic has a ingredient in it that becomes banned, a new derivative of that particular chemical is made, used in the product, and there is no research on it. So therefore, it is automatically safe again, okay? So don't think that just because something doesn't have BPA in it, that it is automatically safe. This is a game that they play in this industry. They just make a small change in the chemical structure of it. Oh, no research saying that that's bad. And so we don't ever want to think that just because something is BPA free, like a plastic or anything else, that it is actually okay. Now, they talk about over 8 different common phthalates here and talk about how dangerous they are, and they're found, of course, in your food. Now, additionally, in the study, they looked at levels of 3 replacement plasticizers, chemicals used to substitute banned phthalates, which I was just explaining, in the foods and gloves collected. Among the 67 foods and gloves collected, they analyzed in this study, all 8 phthalates except DMP were detected. Specifically, 52, which would have been 81% of the samples, contained phthalates called DNBP, while 45, which would be 70%, contained DEHP. Mounting scientific evidence has linked both chemicals to fertility and reproductive problems in humans. Now, if you are around my age and a lot of your friends are having children, starting families, you don't have to look far to see women and families who are struggling with infertility issues. You also don't have to look far to see reproductive problems, okay? And they also go on to say in this study is it causes an increased risk for learning, attention, and behavioral disorders in children, Okay, so a lot of times, parents might not even eat this stuff themselves because they're trying to lose weight or they're trying to get on that new health kick, but they think it's fine for my kids. It is not fine for your kids. Okay, we see these issues, these behavioral disorders are off the charts right now. I actually give care in my clinic to many teachers, and teachers who have been in the game, they've been teaching for 30, 40 years. They tell me all the time they've never seen anything like it is today, where all these children are coming in with these behavioral disorders. And so we have to make sure that our children are protected. I mean, more so now today than ever before. The only thing that stands between these big corporations and your children are the parents. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We can say it from the standpoint of this food, but we can also say it from the standpoint of the biomedical industry, which is just invading people's lives. And so additionally, in this study, they found that in general, foods containing meats such as cheeseburgers and chicken burritos had higher levels of chemicals compared to those that don't. Jesse Buckley, an environmental epidemiologist at Johns Hopkins University, who was not involved in the study, told Environmental Health News that these findings speak to fast food as a double whammy, offering low nutrition values and also pernicious chemicals. So when you look at these chemicals or these fast foods, be sure to make sure that you are avoiding them at all costs, and just not even a little bit. Just make it a priority to not eat these things. Make sure that you're packing foods, plan your meals, and also don't be left in a pinch where you're stuck buying this stuff even when you're on the road. Let's move on to our next article that we want to check out. The FDA panel recommends authorization of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children 5 to 11. Now, this is big news because this has kind of been, swirling around forever. Are they going to do it? Are they not going to do it? Why would they do it? I mean, a lot of people looked at it and go, I don't see a need for it. But anyway, there has been a strong pursuit of this from the very beginning. I want to start this off by asking you a simple question, though. Do you think that the pharmaceutical companies benefit financially from having this authorization? Do you think they have a financial motive in this? And let me know in the comments below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, was advised on Tuesday to authorize Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for children between ages 5 to 11. The FDA's Vaccine and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee made the recommendation. 17 panel members voted yes. The vote came after lengthy presentations and discussion on whether it was even necessary for children. Pfizer and FDA experts were unable to say whether the vaccine could actually prevent transmission, but they said it will lower the risk of severe disease, hospitalizations, and death among children, citing that data from the trials run by Pfizer and the effectiveness of the vaccine in older age groups who have been getting it for months. Now, I'm really surprised that they focused on that particular area of it, because I think if there was an argument to be made, the argument would have been, well, you're protecting old people. But we do have to realize that, at least in the United States, it is a free country, and something should not be imposed on somebody else in order to protect someone else. Okay? That's something that's very often done in more of a communist style country. So they said that, it's not necessarily going to prevent transmission, but what it will do is just make sure that these kids are not hospitalized and they do not face death, because that is kind of the ultimate problem that we're facing right now, is so many kids getting very, very sick, and of course it leading to death, which nobody wants to see. The evidence is pretty clear that this vaccine has worked well, says Dr. Jay Portnoy from Children's Mercy Hospital. The FDA scientists ruled that the benefits of the shot outweighed the risk, and the panel members agreed, even after expressing serious reservations regarding the decision. Members were forced to vote on this. They had the option to maybe even change their opinion. If they didn't vote and they rejected it, it's like, well, you could still make a recommendation helping to advise authorization and what would be appropriate, but they didn't ever have to go there. Basically, it passed with flying colors. The FDA is expected to agree with the recommendations, which would lead to the CDC's CDC's vaccine advisory panel deciding exactly who can get the jab. Severe outcomes among children, especially among healthy children without comorbidities from COVID-19, are much less likely than older age groups. And this was actually just posted by the CDC website. They said, look, this older age groups we're very concerned about. We're not so much worried about the younger age groups, according to the CDC. Hospitalizations among children 5 to 11 have happened at a lower rate than influenza, according to the adjusted surveillance data from the Center of Disease Control. Now, I want to look at this real quick and bring your eyes to basically the leading cause of death in between 10/3/2020 and October 2nd, 2021. Accidents led the causes of death, 969 during that period. We next have cancer. We have congenital anomalies, deformations and things like that, meaning that the child was born with some problems. We have homicide and assault. Then after that, we have diseases of the heart, cardiovascular diseases coming in at 115 deaths in that time frame. We have chronic respiratory diseases at 107 deaths, influenza and pneumonia 84, suicide by children at 66, and COVID-19 presents a danger that is similar to suicide, which is actually quite a bit lower than influenza and pneumonia. So that's what we're looking at. It is actually one of the lower ranked, third from the bottom of the chart of potential harms to children, far from the top and quite a bit below the influenza and pneumonia. We're going to go back to the article here. Now, they go on to say that 94 children in the age group have died from the disease since the start of the pandemic, according to a CDC official. But a small percentage of children have still experienced severe disease and required intensive care, motivating members to recommend the shot. There are approximately 24 million children between 6 and 11 in the United States, according to the Census Bureau. The use of this vaccine will prevent deaths, which will prevent ICU admissions, okay? I think we're certainly leaning towards wanting to 100% eradicate deaths in this world. I think that as we look at the language around these people and the thought process behind this, I do think that they plan on eradicating death as a whole, because we see that it's very low, but they think that we can even get it lower by recommending vaccines to 24 million children. It's estimated that 66 children died within this age group over the course of last year. It also is estimated that 2/3 of them were already suffering from pretty severe illnesses, pulmonary conditions. They had potentially cancer. It's estimated 2/3 of them were already suffering from severe comorbidities, potentially even more. So we're looking at very, very minimal numbers, but obviously very, very dangerous, according to the CDC and the FDA. Now, I want to move on to our next article and hold all these thoughts for a minute, because we will circle back on them towards the end of this video. The second part of this video, I'll just give you a heads up, will be available on drzee.tv. It is too dangerous for YouTube in its censorship model. The YouTube has taken a position that it is 100% for and pro-vaccine, and anything against that it will not tolerate. So we just have to make sure that we are speaking according to their terms. Now, this is an interesting article. We're going to move on to this next one. U.S. set to pay $712 per patient for Merck's COVID-19 pill. I asked you a question earlier. Do you think that these pharmaceutical institutions, these big companies, do they have a financial stake in recommending these different pills and shots to you and your family? Let's dive in. Merck & Company is set to receive $712 per treatment course for its COVID-19 antiviral pill from the U.S. government, even as it costs a fraction of that amount to produce and is reportedly on track for a price of $12 in India. So let me repeat that. Merck is going to be selling this new pill for $712 per treatment in the United States. And the generic version of this is going to be available in India for $12. Okay, there's a $700 price difference. The gap between production costs and the price for this generic version in India is wide and emblematic of a problem that some say require Congress or the US government to intervene by implementing price caps or utilizing so-called March-in rights. Others, though, warn that such measurements would curb innovation and lead to fewer drugs coming out to the market. Merck filed for an emergency use authorization from the Food and Drug Administration for the oral drug last week after it said an interim analysis of the trial data shows it cut hospitalizations in COVID-19 patients. An FDA advisory panel will consider the drug in November. Okay, so there's a couple things that we want to consider here. This treatment was actually developed by Emory University with US government funding, okay? So this particular treatment was paid for by the taxpayers. And after it was paid for by the taxpayers, the companies basically licensed it. They are now selling it back to the US government so that you can get a free treatment, okay? And just to kind of clear this up, because some people are very unaware of this, the only place the US government is getting money from is you, okay? And this is about as close as these big pharmaceutical companies can come to robbing somebody without a weapon. I mean, this is highway robbery of every individual within the United States. Highway robbery. The government, your money, funded it, and now your money will buy it. Well, if your money already funded it, why is it that you have to buy it back is a good question, okay? And not to mention they are ripping the government on it. You saw that the generic version costs $12. It's the same story again and again. These companies basically, fund campaigns and fund all kinds of government nonsense, and then they just take your money and shovel this money back into these companies, and it's absolutely horrifying. Okay, this will, I want to add one more piece. I'm going to wrap this up quickly here because I want to move towards just the Dr. Z TV portion of this alone. But I want to read for you something real quick before I get there. And this is based off vitamin D, because we have found, according to the powers that be at the FDA and the CDC, that the shots are necessary for these children. But I want to read something real quick before I go, and I'm going to let you ponder on it, and hopefully you'll finish the rest of this video on the website. A clinical trial published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition reported that children given vitamin D3 in the winter were 67% less likely to get the flu. Okay, and we're talking virus in general. In this case, when these studies were done, like there was no current COVID-19 that existed, but it was a virus, and that was a flu. And a virus is a virus to a certain extent. Okay, if we would just want to keep it simple here. So given vitamin D3 in the winter, they were 67% less likely to get the flu. In a 3-year study on vitamin D3 supplementation and the incidence of cold and flu, subjects who supplemented with vitamin D3 had a 70% reduced incidence of colds and flu compared to the group that didn't supplement with vitamin D3 at all. Even more astonishing, in the group that was given 2,000 IUs of vitamin D3 daily, the incidence of colds and flu dropped by over 99%. Let me read that again. Even more astonishing, the groups that were given 2,000 IUs, which is actually a very low amount. I take 5,000 IUs a day. 2,000 IUs of vitamin D3 daily, the incidence of colds and flus dropped by 99%. If you can show me a flu shot study that's even come close to these results, I will buy you vitamin D for the next 5 years, okay? The fact is it doesn't exist. So it's really incredible how powerful some of the natural immune boosters can really be. I'll put a link in the description to many natural immune boosters that I use and also recommend to the people that I see for care. So you can catch the rest of this video on drzee.tv. It'll look exactly the same thumbnail and everything, and I'm going to talk about the content now that's considered too dangerous for YouTube.